But hey, this is Mark Franks. Hopefully, most of you know me. I've been around for 7 years. If you've been to other What's New for Developer events or the DevCon last year, or you showed up at Summit, you hopefully recognize me and know who I am. I'm the senior developer relations manager at Acumatica. So I'm responsible for the community at large for the developers. And so I work really hard at helping developers in our ecosystem, if you will, be efficient and hopefully help them navigate the Acumatica developer landscape. And I hope we try to put on events like this to share information at DevCon, at these What News for Developer, at Summit, and so forth. Run the hackathons, all that kind of stuff. So I just love my job. I love working with you guys, and so that's who I am. And I'm also here with Dimitri and Ruchika, who have done the last several What's New for Developers. And Ruchika is going to kick it off, and then Dimitri is going to do the last part of the presentation. So with that, Ruchika, one more thing. I forgot one more thing. So as usual, if you've been to these type of events, I try to remind people not to post questions in the chat, but if you look at the screen and you look for the Q&A, click on the Q&A. That's where you can ask questions, and then we'll try to answer those as quickly as possible. We'll have time also after the presentation to answer questions. So if you have questions, please post them in the Q&A. All right, Ruchika, we're ready to go. Please take it away from here. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Hello, everyone. So let's get started and have a look at the agenda for today's session. We have divided this session into two parts. In the first part, I will talk about the breaking changes. And in the second part, Dimitri will talk about some enhancements and also discuss working with the new UI. So let's begin with the breaking changes in 2023 R1. The first breaking change for 2023 R1, which I want to talk about, is feature switches for payment plugin. Before 2023 R1, on Enable Disable Features screen, you would have only observed the Integrated Card Processing checkbox. Starting this release, you would now see the plugins which have been highlighted here in the screenshot, which did not exist earlier. So if you have the appropriate license and this specific plugin is enabled on Enable Disable Feature screen, you will be able to see this plugin on Processing Center's form. Also, if the feature is already used by a processing center, you would notice that it is selected when you upgrade to 2023 R1. Let's now talk about the second breaking change, which is new feature switch for custom developed connectors. So as you might know that we have integration with Amazon, Shopify, and BigCommerce out of the box. The system also allows developers to create their own connectors. And if you have a custom connector, starting 2023 R1, you will be able to set up stores for your connector. And for this, we have added a new feature switch under Retail Commerce section, which is called Custom Connectors. You would now be able to set up stores for your custom developed connector. So if this feature is enabled, this would mean that the system would verify that the given connector exists in the license. If it does, then you would be able to create the number of stores based on the license you have. And if it does not, then it would return the default store limit value. That is, you would be able to create 5 stores. However, if this is disabled, then you would only be able to use the registered connectors. So this completes with the second breaking change. Let's now talk about the third change, which is Commerce Connector API changes. In 23R1, you would observe that a lot of changes have been made in API of Commerce Framework. And one of the most important changes is that now developers would have to modify the code as we have changed a few things. We have modified methods for iProcessor interface. The first method which we have modified is get extern custom field list, which fetches the list of all custom fields in a connector. And the second method which we have changed is validate extern custom field. As the name suggests, it is used to validate external fields, the custom fields of a custom connector. So please make sure to modify these methods if you are using a custom connector in 23R1. The fourth breaking change is that we have now introduced a new webhook API which supports .NET Core. We have made a few changes to webhook responses. So in case webhook processing returns an error, the error would now be returned in JSON format, irrespective of what was sent in accept header in the request. We have also made some changes to webhook history. So if the system is able to determine the encoding of request body, it tries to read the body as a string in this encoding, and it will be used to log as a result. So you can review the webhook processing history on request history tab of webhooks form. We would also continue supporting the legacy webhook interface in 23R1. So if you have any of your webhooks on a site which is deployed on an older version of Acumatica ERP, upon upgrading to 23R1, the webhooks would still continue to work. However, in 23R2, the legacy webhook API, which includes px.data.webhooks.iWebhook handler, will be removed. So please make sure to plan to make these changes accordingly. If you want to learn more about the implementation of new API for webhooks, please refer to the developer release notes, which are available on builds.acumatica.com and also on community.acumatica.com. You can find step-by-step implementation of the new API for webhooks there. Let's now proceed to the next breaking change, which is deprecation of PX OAuth 2 client providers. In frame of migration to .NET Core, we have finally started to deprecate support of Google, Microsoft account, and any custom providers which are derived from PX OAuth 2 client class. In 23R1, the methods in this class in the code have been marked as obsolete. Not just that, you would also observe a warning on security preferences screen. So let's say if you have the Google identity provider, there would be a warning which says that Google identity provider can no longer be configured on this form. You can use OpenID providers form to configure the external identity providers, the OpenID providers, which was introduced in 21R1. In 23R2, we plan to include upgrade script to migrate Google provider to OpenID. Please note that we would only be migrating the Google identity provider, but not others. And we would also completely remove support of PX OAuth 2 client providers from the product. So please plan to make the changes accordingly. We have also decided to deprecate automation steps. As you might know that the new workflow engine has now been there for quite some releases. And the old automation engine and the new automation engine were both working till now, which resulted in some issues which were difficult to troubleshoot. So due to that reason, we have decided to deprecate old automation steps and automation definitions from the product. So in 23R1, we have reworked all our screens which used the old automation engine, and we have migrated them to the new automation engine. We have also removed old automation steps definitions from system company. However, we would continue to support old automation engines since you would have some custom screens on that already. But in 23R2, we would remove automation steps and automation definitions completely. So you can plan to make the changes accordingly. That's all what I wanted to talk about. I will now hand over to Dimitri to discuss enhancements in 23R1. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well?
We can hear you, Dimitri.
Great. Yeah. So thank you, Ruchika. And now we will proceed with the enhancements that were implemented in the product in 23R1. First of all, we'll talk about the enhancements to customization projects. And the first enhancement here is that we now can retrieve content of customization packages through API. In one of the previous releases, we've released new REST-based customization API that allows you to publish customization packages through API to upload them. Now we continue to improve that, and we've introduced the following method. It's customization API/get project. That method allows you to retrieve the content of the package. Also, there is one property is auto-resolve conflicts. If you set that property to true before retrieval of the project, the system will update the project to the latest state that it is in the instance. So let's say when you are working on a customization project, sometimes you make changes to sitemap or to database schema. And for those changes to reflect in customization package, you need to go to the customization package editor and click reload from the database button on the screen. So this property is auto-resolve conflicts, allows you to do the same thing through API. So whenever you are retrieving the customization package, you can also update it to the latest state of the items that are in the instance you are working with. And another small enhancement to that API is that now all the customization events that you see in the customization publishing log, for instance, whenever you publish customization, those messages will be visible in system monitor screen. So you will be able to go back to system monitor screen and observe all the warnings and all the logs of publishing customization that you've performed. Another change that we've introduced to customization packages is access rights for the screen. So you know that previously you were able to include access rights to some screen into the customization packages. However, there was an issue with that. And the issue is that if you include those access rights for some screens, whenever someone publishes a customization package to an instance, and if there are some roles that the customization package doesn't know about, the publishing process can reset the rights for these roles during publishing. And that was not very convenient. So now we've introduced a new checkbox, reset permissions. And if you set that checkbox to true, the customization project, whenever it is publishing, will put the access rights to the screens you want and will reset the access rights for those screens for every other role that it is not specified to. If you don't set that checkbox, the customization project will not affect the access rights for other roles that it doesn't know about. So here I have a little chart. So if you have the checkbox reset permissions, all other roles that the access rights are not set for will be set to not set on publishing of the customization package. And this behavior will be default for existing customization packages, since it was like that from the very beginning. However, for all newly created customization packages, the default value of that checkbox will be blank, which means that the customization package will not affect other roles during publishing procedure. So it will only affect the roles that it has access rights for, and the roles that it doesn't have access rights for, it will just ignore. Okay, let's move on. The next enhancement that we've introduced is ACH plugin. So you know that in Acumatica, we have that concept of plugins that we use, for instance, for shipping solutions, for tax calculation providers, for credit card providers. So there is a set of interfaces that you as a developer can implement, and you can put compile that into DLL. You can put the DLL in the site, and you will be able in the user interface of the site to select a specific plugin for processing. And with that release, we've introduced ACH plugin. So ACH is export of files with payments that you send to the bank later. This now allows you to either export it in legacy mode, the way it was, or you can export it with a plugin. And what's nice about plugin is that you can implement your own plugin. Previously, to implement your own way of exporting ACH files, you had to configure some export scenarios, maybe some data providers, and it was not very convenient. Now it is much easier. You implement whatever logic you want in that plugin. You put it in the site, and the users can use that export method from now on. They will have that export setting selector in the payment methods screen, and they will be able to select plugin. It will show either just the default US ACH plugin, or it will show other plugins if you've put them in the site. And also on the payment methods, you will see the following tab. If you select the plugin type of export, you will see the following settings here. In your own plugin, you can define which settings you want to show. Okay, so let's move on. The next small change is support of fluent BQL in formulas. So previously, formulas were not supporting fluent BQL to full extent. For instance, for peak setup, you had to still use the old BQL. For some references to parent records, you still had to use the old BQL, etc. So now the support for fluent BQL in formulas is extended, and you have flexibility to choose whether you want to use the classic BQL or fluent BQL in formulas everywhere. And another change that we've introduced is possibility to work with multilingual fields via API and OData. So for OData, we support both OData version 3, that is OData API based on generic inquiries, and OData version 4, that is OData based on the data access classes. Both of those will support multilingual fields from now on. So you can access the values in different languages using one of the two ways. So you can either use accept language header in your GET request whenever you retrieve the data, like here in the example, accept language French. And whenever you retrieve the inventory items, you will get the descriptions of those items in French if they are translated to French in the system. And you can also use a URL parameter. So you can find more about that and specific examples in developer release notes. Feel free to download the dev release notes from either community.acumatica.com or builds.acumatica.com. Okay, and so those were the enhancements we've introduced. It's not the full list. The full list you can find in the dev release notes. And now I wanted to talk about new UI technology. As you may know, and if you don't know it yet, you probably should know, Acumatica is migrating to new UI technology. Old UI based on web forms is going to be deprecated in some time. And for now, we are slowly introducing new UI piece by piece. Now, in 23 R1 release, the technology is in dev preview mode, which means it's available for you to try it out. The new UI is based on TypeScript and HTML, so it will probably be more approachable for you, and hopefully it will be easier to work with that than with the new UI, than with old UI. So let's take a look at what it looks like. First of all, what you need to do to turn it on in your 23R1 site. The first step that you need to do, you need to go to your web config of the site and you need to add the following flag: enable sitemap switch UI and value set to true. This will activate special mode in which you can specify the UI for each screen separately. So you go to the sitemap of the site, and here, as shown on the screenshot, you will have additional column with a selector of UI type. And by default, all screens will have classic UI here. You can change it to modern UI. And you can change it, for instance, for a sales order screen. It's already there in the system, and you can see what it looks like. And I will also show it in a second. Let's switch to my instance. And here you can see I have 23R1 version of Acumatica installed, and this is the sales order screen that we now have in new UI. By default, all customers will still have the old screen, and it is not recommended yet to switch it to the new UI for production use. But for just trying it out to see how it feels and what it looks like, you can switch to the new UI and you can observe the behavior of the screen. So you can see it's pretty much the same functionality that it was before, but it has a little bit different look. In the background, it's a different technology. It's HTML and JavaScript. We can take a look at what it looks like here. In your website, you have scripts, screens folder, and that screens folder contains the screens built for new UI. So you can see sales order screen here and some other screens as well. So those are HTML, and they also have some JavaScript nearby that implements the UI behavior. So those are compiled screens. Also, you can see the source of those screens, of the UI of those screens, if you navigate to front-end sources here. So if you navigate to front-end sources screen and SRC and screens, you will see here is the list of folders, pretty much the same that it was in the old UI. You have the folders for each module of Acumatica, and in the specific folders, you will have specific screens. Now the screens are represented by folders. For each screen, you will have a separate folder, and in that folder, you will see the HTML, the TypeScript, and the, well, maybe additional TypeScript, maybe additional HTML. In the new UI, there may be multiple parts of both HTML and TypeScript. So you can go here to the sources. You can modify those, either HTML or TypeScript, and you can then run the following commands. So you can run in Acumatica site folder front-end sources. You can run npm run get modules and npm run build, which will take the changes that you've done to those files, and it will put them in the scripts folder. Scripts screens. Yeah. After that, the changes that you've made will be available in the site, and you will see the changed behavior of the screen. So that is it about the new UI. I will not go into the details of the technology. For now, I just encourage you to go there and try. We are going to release documentation for that UI in our help.acumatica.com website and in other places. We will also provide some examples, some GitHub repositories for you to observe what it is and how it works. That's it for me. Thank you for your attention. Let's then
Thanks,
read the
Dmitry.
questions.
So if you go into the QA, I don't know if Ruchika's been answering or not. I haven't looked lately, but you can see the questions in there if you click on the Q&A.
Yeah, let me check.
And then we can answer questions. And I know some people have had trouble. They don't even have the Q&A option. So you may be able to click on more. Let's see. And then there, alternatively, you can find it in the main interface under the chat for this, under the video. So Maran, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, posted a screenshot of where that is in case you don't know. If you still have trouble, raise your hand and I'll open up your mic and you can ask the question using your voice.
Well, let me then go through, I think
The Q&A first. Yep.
Questions there. So the question asked by Alan, for new customization project, can we create new screen in the new UI? What is underlying JavaScript version? So for now, I'd say you cannot include it in the customization project just yet. I mean, you can, but it's not properly supported yet. So I would wait with that. As for the JavaScript version, I'm not really sure. The next question, is the underlying JavaScript framework for the new UI still going to be based on our Aurelia.js? Yes, that is the case. We use Aurelia.js as our JavaScript frontend framework, and we continue with that framework. So the next question from Kumar. Customizations for the new UI screens needs to be built differently, or will framework automatically generate this? So for the new UI, we'll see how it works with customization later. For now, I would say we need to wait with adding those to customization packages. For the Shopify and the BigCommerce connectors, can we modify how customers are written back to Acumatica? Well, yes, there is a customization framework in place that allows you to also modify the Shopify and BigCommerce connectors. So you can do that through customization. So the next question from Kumar, on the commerce side, are formulas supported in the custom fields mapping of BigCommerce? Not really sure about that. I would assume that it is, but I can't say for sure. I have not checked in that screen lately. Okay, the next question. When setting the is auto resolve conflicts in the API call, does that update everything in the package, such as GIs, or simply update the XML stored in the database? It updates, well, Evan, could you please clarify your question? Because I'm not sure what difference is. Like, you are asking everything such as GIs or simply update the XML. But the XML contains the GI changes, right? So I don't see a difference here in what you are asking. But yeah, it updates everything. The next question.
Actually, before you go on to that question,
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can open up his mic and then he can clarify.
Okay, yeah,
Let's
that
see
would
if
be
that
good.
works. Let's see if that works. Okay. Think you can unmute your mic, Evan, and then you can ask your question. I'm giving you special powers.
Yeah, thanks. No, I just know like you can make XML changes in there and then you can click save to the DB. And I wasn't sure if that was the same action occurring or if it's going to go through every single different page, if you would, because I know there's like the update for like the sitemap, the uh, database, and the GIs, and I think there's one more or two more in there. So I didn't know if it goes through all of them or just the ones that are explicitly update DB.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
it goes through all and clicks that. Well, not really clicks that, but
Yeah.
you get it.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, next one. Is there any improvements with those warnings about workflow conflicts when the package contains low-code, no-code changes? To my knowledge, it still works exactly the same way as in the previous version. Okay, the next one is Doug just posting some info.
Yep.
And Mark posting some info. Okay.
Yeah,
I see
there's
there
actually
are some...
if you scroll to the top, you can see that Yuri's the last, I think it's Yuri, posted up there as well. So if you scroll back up, you should get the most recent. You can see about 3 or 4 more questions.
Oh, it's the other order.
Yes. I did the
Okay.
same thing as you did. That's why I knew they were actually above now. So
So the next question from Brian. Microsoft authentication will not be supported. As far as I understand, it will be supported through Open API, Open. I don't remember the abbreviation
open
there.
authentication.
Yeah, Open authentication. Open ID, yes. Open ID.
Open ID, that's what it is. Yep.
Yeah. So as far as I understand, it will be supported through Open ID. Can you tell us when the new UI will be supported and can be used in customizations? I think we need to refer to the slides that Mike has shown. There is an answer to that. Yeah, to the roadmap. You can try, and if you try and let us know your feedback, that would be really useful. If you have troubles, you can create a dev support case. We will also be happy to assist with that because through that we also get some understanding on what people are struggling with, and we can communicate that back to engineering team to make changes, and we can communicate to documentation team to document specific things that cause questions. So yeah, I encourage you to try. If you have some troubles, can reach out to us using the portal.
So I just enabled Doug Johnson's mic. Maybe Doug, do you have an answer on that? Do you know when that'll be supported since you're the VP of product management? Maybe you have better insight.
So 23R1 is the preview that you saw today, and Dimitri did a great job of showing what you can get away with on that one. Once again, important, go in, play with it, but don't use it in production. In 23R2, we're planning on having more controls and more screens enabled so that all of the application teams in Acumatica can start working on it. So they're going to start working heavily on that in Q3 and Q4. And then beginning in 24 R1, I believe the goal is to have the ability to turn it on for all the screens at that point. But these are all very tentative dates. So hopefully, Mark and Dimitri, that's what you were looking for.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that insight. I'm sure everyone else on the call does too. All right. So is there any more questions? I was switching
Yes,
screens.
there are some
so
more
why don't you go ahead?
questions.
Yep.
The next question, I assume from Yuri.
Yep.
Does it mean that Acumatica e-commerce framework requires additional license cost? I mean, case if I want to use e-commerce framework for NLP commerce. Not sure what NLP commerce is, but it is actually the opposite. So we've split those licenses specifically to allow people to more easily use the commerce framework for their own connectors. So you don't need bigger license compared to the previous version to use that. So the custom connectors will be more accessible for you than it was before.
Yeah.
So before you had to request, like if you want to use the custom connector, but you don't have the commerce edition, you had to request the additional license. Now you can just turn on the commerce connector, custom commerce connector.
Yep, that's nice.
So the next question. Once we choose the new UI, can we switch back to classic? Yeah, so for now, this control that you've seen on the screen, it is fully controlled by the users. You can switch to the new one, you can switch back to classic, whatever. And the classic UI will still be supported, I assume, for up until 2025, at which point it will be deprecated. After that, of course, you will not be able to switch back to the classic one. But yeah, for now, both are supported side by side. Okay. And one more. Is the UI framework Aurelia? Yes, it is Aurelia.js. But as a developer who is going to work on the screens, if those are standard screens that do not require any custom controls, you will not really know the difference. You will not see any like Aurelia framework specifics for development of standard screens. It's pretty much just TypeScript declaration, which lists the Acumatica views and properties, and this is pretty much custom. And there is HTML, so not really specific to Aurelia framework. However, if you want to implement a custom control for the new UI, then in that case you will need to do some digging into the Aurelia framework. What JS library would be most suitable for new UI components? I think, well, I'm not really sure how to answer that question. And I'm just afraid to say something that is not correct. But I would assume you will use the things that are available in Aurelia framework. And whatever you can add, you probably to Aurelia, you probably can use.
There's another
And
question.
another question, with the new UI, will we expect to have calendars and other graphical UIs not supported by web forms? So as for calendar, yes, it is in their roadmap. So it will be a standard component of the new UI. For other graphical UIs, well, it depends on the type, but we do have more flexibility in that sense. If you want to request something specific, you can go to our community website and post in the ideas section of that website to let us know, and we will review those ideas that are posted there and implement the new UI controls if needed.
So we'll take a break right here. I know there's a new post, but I want to get this in before everyone drops off. So I just wanted to let you all know that I'm starting the planning process for the DevCon that we hold in June. So we got a lot of feedback from the last one, and we've decided to spread it over 3 days. So no, we're not going to have 24 hours of content. We'll do 3-hour days approximately. So we'll have 3 hours on like Tuesday, 3 hours on Wednesday, 3 hours on Thursday. So we'll spread it out because I think what people were really asking for is not to take a half day, 4 hours or 6 hours in a day. I think we typically have 9 to 10 hours of content in the DevCons. And so we're going to spread that out. So I'm looking at, and I haven't set the dates exactly, but it looks like it'll be like either the 21st, 22nd, or 23rd, or I'll have it, or the 20th, 21st, and 22nd rather, or the 27th, 28th, or 29th. So the next major communication from us will be around the DevCon, the dates, and I'll be setting up the web page that you see that we have on the acumatica.com/developer, the DevCon section. So there'll be more information there. If you haven't been spending time in the community.acumatica.com, we'll announce it there. We'll announce it in newsletters. The way it was kind of cool. There's a new feature in our community site that allowed us to do if you will, a marketing campaign to promote this very webinar. And so that's how you actually got the email. So we were able to have a filter where we said, okay, everyone since November 1st who's been active in the community until now, let's take that group of people, and then we'll say, okay, I can click on partner, ISV, and other criteria. And then I think, sent out like 8,000 or something like that, 7,000 or 8,000 invites. And we got the highest number of registrations by almost 3 times. So it was really great utilization. It was a beta feature. So I'll be using that as well to promote to do demand generation for the DevCon in June and follow up. But we'll use social media and so forth. So that'll be the next big presentation that we have. And then again, we'll release in the fall our R2, and we'll do a launch event, and we'll do another what's new for developers. And Doug will go through with his product managers, of course, and do presentations. So we'll do that at the same time, and that'll be more of an on-demand event like Doug did last Tuesday. So I just wanted to get that out so you all know what's coming down the pipe around that. So, and if you have any ideas, like I said, I'm just planning. If there's anything that you would love to see in the DevCon, you can send me an email if you have any suggestions, because I haven't started the process of what the presentation should be. Obviously, we'll have something around the new UI and things like that. But if you have any specific requests we haven't talked about, I always try to, at Summit and at the DevCon, I always try to have new, fresh content. So if you have anything you really would like to see, let me know. You can always contact me using my email. It's very simple, mfranks My name's Mark Franks, so it's just my first initial last name, FRNKS, at Acumatica.com. So if you have any feedback about this, what's new for developers or anything community related for developers, please don't hesitate contacting me. All right, I'm going to switch it back to Dimitri because I know there's more questions. So with that, go ahead, Dimitri.
Yep.
Answer some more questions.
So yeah, the question that we answered was about the Aurelia. The next question is, will making screen changes, especially ASPX, in the customization editor become more reliable with the changes to how pages are written? So I assume that also is a question about the new UI. So in the new UI, there will be no ASPX anymore, and the screen definitions in the new UI are represented by two things: TypeScript definition, which defines the behavior, and HTML definition that defines the look of the screen. Both of those will be modular. That is, they will be combined from multiple separate files, and that allows us to better control things that are put in the customizations. It allows for easier development. So yes, it will be more stable since we will have easier time on combining those changes together into one big thing, and they will be stored completely separately. Okay. The next question about calendar component support, and will it support drag and drop scheduling? I assume it will. I cannot guarantee, but I assume it will. The next question, are there any plans for any in-person development training? And this is specifically not related to the summit. So I don't think we are planning any public dev trainings in person. We can arrange dev trainings for our partners, but that is based on a separate agreement with our partners. And if you have ADN contract with us, you can request dev training for limited number of hours. That will be either online, or if you can arrange the travel, it can be done in person as well, but the travel expenses are on your side.
Yeah.
So Chris here is asking about developer conference dates. Mark, could you?
So I mentioned earlier, if you didn't hear me, it's likely going to be the 20th, 21st, or 22nd of June. I think all 7 or how many I've done, I've lost count, to be honest with you, while looking at it, have been done the third week, either the second or third or fourth week of June, depending on how the year, but usually it's around the 20th or so, depending on how the weekdays align. But so this year, it'll likely be the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. But I might push it out a week to the 27th, 28th, and 29th. So as I mentioned earlier, in case you didn't catch it, we're looking to spread it over 3 days, 3 hours, so about 9 hours of content, which is average. So we do usually 2-day, and that's usually been either 4 to 6 hours each day. So the feedback that we got was, hey, can you spread that out so I don't have to take so much time away from my work day? So 3 hours seemed to be a nice compromise. We're not going to do 2 hour across 4 days, but I think it's reasonable to do 3 hour, 3 day DevCon. So that's what I'm going to do this year. The question is, will it fall on the week of the 20th or the 27th? So I'll make that decision probably in the next couple of weeks. We'll have an announcement, and I'll try not to bombard all of you with too much email inviting you to the DevCon, but hopefully, I'll have that announced soon. Thanks.
Okay. Couple more questions. I missed one about why Aurelia.js over other more popular UI frameworks. Well, short answer, we've investigated the available options. We've tried a couple of things in different frameworks, and we ended up choosing Aurelia. If you want to hear some specifics, I guess come talk to me at the summit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Kyle is asking, do you know if we need a specific version of Node.js? I mean, probably yes. Would be strange if the answer to that is no. And I've posted in the chat the versions of JavaScript modules that I have, like Node.js that I have version 16.15.0, and there are some other things. So probably that should be enough to make it work.
Yeah. So if there are any more questions, I'm going to try something radical. Raise your hand and I'm going to see if I can open up your mic. So if you have any questions or comments, raise your hand. I want to see if that works, because this is the first time I've used the webinar version of Microsoft Teams. So if you have a question now, raise your hand and let's see if I can open up your mic. All right, so Stefan is raising his hand. So I'm going to open your mic. So I just did. Okay, so Stefan, if you unmute, you can ask a question using your voice, and we can hear your wonderful Québécois accent.
Yes, yes, of course. So my question is, I have a potential customer who's looking for a complete different UI, and so I'm trying to get a sense of when, given development time, of course, and Aurelia and that stuff, but when could I reliably tell them that I'll be able to deliver something? Meaning that I will build it in TypeScript or whatever, including other components, but I'll also have to publish it on their site. And I'm not asking for a promise. I'm just asking for, right now I told them that something was coming in 23R1, and then we'll go to 23R2, and then things will change. So they're not expecting next week, obviously, but is it safe to say, for example, that could be delivered on 23R2?
No.
Or more 24R1?
24R1 is better.
Is where the big show will start, basically.
Yes.
The big JavaScript show will start. Okay.
Yeah, but just so you know, I'm not fond of changing the default system components. I'm not a big fan of that. But I mean,
Stefan always likes to dig deep inside.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's not like they want a rocket to go to the moon, but they want to be able to control stuff by drag and drop, let's say components that represent entities, and you could drag it from one status to another, a status being like a box where it says this is completed, this is that, and they would drag and drop between those areas where you would basically update the status or something like that, right?
I see. It's like a Kanban board, right, or something.
If you will, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So drag and drop from one status to another, and then you have a status change. You have a update date and timestamp on some rows, and that's it, right?
You can, well,
Or
you
maybe
can,
a pop-up with, okay, I've finished this. What is the quantity? I drag, it's asking me for the quantity. I type OK, and then boom, it updates the, I don't know, the stock transfer, for example, right?
Yeah, so we actually had that implemented in one of our internal hackathons.
Okay.
So yeah, I think you can post it on our ideas website, and maybe we'll implement it ourselves then. That is a possibility that will cut some of costs that you might have.
The other question I would have is inside of the TypeScript. I mean, I'm inside of Acumatica, so when I want to call Acumatica, I mean, what's the channel through which I'm able to talk to Acumatica to do queries and stuff like that? Or does it go back to the graph?
Yeah, it does go back to the graph. We
Okay.
will be releasing the specific guide on how to implement custom components and how they work.
Okay.
And how to go to the backend and back.
Yeah, back and forth. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay. When would that guide? I need that guide tomorrow.
Well, it will be there. I don't know yet, but
you can
probably
pay Dimitri to write it on the side if you want.
But I guess the screen that you have done so far, I mean, they are an example of what to do, right?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Well, I'll go dig there and see. I'll figure it out then.
Yeah, just be aware that it's still subject to change. It's still
okay.
a preview.
I'm not I'm not afraid of changes. Believe me.
Okay.
I'm afraid of something that is a closed system. You can be open as you want. I'm happy. If you change things, I'll adapt to your changes. That's not a problem for me. All right.
Okay.
All right, Stefan, I'm going to disable your mic and allow others to ask.
So, yeah, unfortunately, I have to go. I have another call. Already 5 minutes late.
Oh,
thank you,
late
everyone.
For a call.
Yeah.
All right. So if you have any other questions, just post them in the Q&A, and we can come back and answer them in a comment or something. So, all right. Well, thank you, everyone, for attending. And it's exciting that I'm able to use this. It looks like it worked pretty well. I don't know if anyone had any problems. I saw a few things. Depending if you had the preview version, you couldn't see the Q&A and so forth, but it looks like it worked pretty well. I'm seeing a heart from Stefan, so hopefully everyone had a good. I'm going to go ahead and close this off.